Hello everyone and welcome to 9Speed. So today we're going to be looking at the last of the Widowmakers. So we've got a 3.6 964 turbo and
a 1989 turbo, so a G series model. Yeah.
Fantastic. So this car is pretty much standard apart from an exhaust, so it'll be putting out 360 brake, I think.
In theory, yeah, it should be putting out 360 brake.
But this
is far from stock.
Okay.
This car has got an annual intercooler, a K27 turbocharger, trick cams and an exhaust. So in theory, it should be pushing out pretty much the same horsepower as the other car, although this car is a little bit lighter.
Fantastic. Well, I look forward to it. Let's take them out.
Sounds like a plan. Love these cars, the way these cars move around you. You really feel like you're having to work. There's no stability control, no traction control, no ABS, none of that rubbish. Just you, 3 pedals, and a steering wheel. The steering here is perfectly weighted, albeit a little bit light when you get moving on. But there's tons and tons of feel. There is something really, really rewarding about getting a 911 exactly where you want it to be. It's such beautiful, raw experience. The brakes here aren't assisted in any way, shape or form, but they're very capable. Just got to give them a good shove and also be respectful that there is no ABS, so they will lock up. Right, here we go. Second gear. Building, 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 building. 1 bar, and we're off. Third gear, building, building, and we're in. See, there is that lag between each gear, but the anticipation is so exciting. Thing is when people talk about these old turbos, they really say they're only good for going in straight lines. But quite frankly, respect the power, load out the front wheels, feed in the boost, floor it on the way out, and they'll treat you right. You just got to treat them with respect. You've got to bring in that boost in a linear way by using your right foot. This car is dominated by the engine. Just the way it delivers power, that lag really defines it. A lot of people will say that it's antiquated, and it is. That's part of the character, that's why I love it. It's the anticipation for the boost to come in that makes it so thrilling. And after all, that's what driving is really about.
Right, in the 964 turbo now. Frank's been driving like an unbridled lunatic in that 930. I think he thinks that beard just makes him invincible. So, it's a 964, I'm pretty familiar with 964s. Although this is a turbo, it's a pretty standard car. So it's got all the, it's got turbo suspension, which is stiff as a standard, but it's not super stiff. It's got all the sound deadening in. You sort of forget how civilized a 964 can be, because I'm used to my wild thing, my wild C4. So first impressions are it's rapid. It is very rapid. I find when you're driving 911s, there's plenty of heart in your mouth moments. Even with this, so this is a 964, it's one of the best of the breed, one of the most refined of the turbos. And yeah, I do find myself every now and again going, what the fuck? They always keep you on your toes. They never feel like they're totally under your control. That's what I think about this. That 930, that must be even more of a handful. Frank seems all right with it, but as I said, I think his beard just makes it fearless. Like a big airbag, nothing can touch him. Brakes feel significantly better on this than they do on normal 964s. Massive improvement there. Boost seems to come in around sort of 3.5. It sort of picks up at about 3.5, and then from there it really shoots off. So when they talk about 911s, it's always slow in, fast out. That does remain true with 964s, although they are a lot easier to drive than the older cars. Oh, back end comes out. nicely.
Which one would you take home?
A 930.
The 930?
Yeah. You're surprised, and I think it's probably put a spanner in the works because you were looking forward to banging on about the old 911, the visceral feeling, and then I've come back and actually said that I'm sure the one you prefer as well is my favourite.
I prefer the 930 as well.
Yeah, I knew you did. When I drove the 964, and I was expecting to like this by far more than your 930. And I'd driven the 930 before, and I wasn't, it was good, but I wasn't completely head over heels with it. I came in thinking the 964 will be the one that I want to go for. It will have everything I want in a turbo, but it will be a little bit more sure-footed, it will ride better, it will be, everything will be better. I drove it and I was quite underwhelmed, and there was a few reasons. The engine doesn't feel that responsive to me. It's the first thing, and maybe you're right also because it doesn't have, you know, straight through exhaust and everything else. It takes you a little bit away from it. I then got into that again thinking I'll hate it, and I thought, brilliant. Everything that I was unhappy about in this was right in that. The steering is brilliant. That's not assisted, right?
No, it's not assisted. Yeah, it's completely manual.
So, off-centre, it hasn't got that nervousness that this has, and it has more weight loading up in corners and so on. So, much more reassuring. You can feel, in my mind, a lot more what's going on in that car than you can in this.
What's interesting is we're talking about how this car, in my mind, this car is much more linear. Power delivery is a lot more linear.
Yeah.
So, in theory, you should be able to take more liberties with this than you do with this.
Yeah.
But funnily enough, because this has got much more feeling from it, I feel like you can take more liberties with it because you actually feel where you're going. You feel where you are on the road. That's
exactly it. When I was following you the first time we went out, and you were in the 930 and I was in this, and I was following you, we were going fairly quick. I think I remarked on camera and I said Frank's being a lunatic again, because I thought, in that car it must be so hairy. Because I was driving it quite hard to keep up. And then when I got into that, I thought actually, on these roads, it doesn't feel any slower than this at all. No. You have to be a bit more careful with your, with the engine to keep it on boost. It's a bit more difficult that way. But quite frankly, it's more reassuring in corners than this.
My simplest conclusion from the steering feel is that you got a tons more steering feel with this. So you really feel where you're placing yourself on the road and the turn in. And with this, you feel it a lot less because there's power assisted steering and it's a heavier car and everything else. The way I feel with these cars is that in this, top of the rev range, full boost, you go into the next gear and you're back into the boost. Yeah. Whereas with this car, you get into the next gear and you're outside of the power band waiting for the boost to come in. Yeah. And that is what I find really exhilarating about this. When you think of like an old 911 turbo, the lag is almost intrinsic to its character. Yeah. And in this car, it's actually such a great achievement for an air-cooled turbo rear-wheeled drive 911 that actually it kind of detracts away from what a 911 turbo really should be.
When it goes, there's so much power there. There's so much more exciting. It really goes up, tears up through the rev range.
You've heard our verdict. We both agree that the 930 is the true last of the Widowmakers. But give us your opinions. Tell us in the comments. Give us a like.
Yeah, thank you very much for watching, and we look forward to seeing you for the next one. And make sure you subscribe if you haven't already.
Cheers.